I want to own companies. I don't want to run companies.
Coming up on the Melanin Money Show.
If you can't articulate what you can do, I can't pay you. When you do something for so long, you mistake it for your identity.
I think where people go wrong with messaging is that they make an assumption that people know what they're talking about. I work with corporate white males, 40 to 60, and it's like, girl, you don't know any white men. Please name all the white men you know in corporate. Stop lying.
Kleenex is synonymous with tissue. Messaging is synonymous with Maya. That's a bar. Clip that up, please. Somebody clip that up.
Yes.
What does being a melanin millionaire mean to you?
Being a melanin millionaire means...
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Melanin Money Show. And today's a special episode. It's always special when I can get somebody who I'm friends with in real life come on the podcast.
Well, I'm friends with you in real... Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're cool too, right? Friends with in real life on the podcast to get to show the world all the things that I get to see behind the scenes, all the text message conversations, all the greatness that the world might not have an opportunity to know. I'm going to extract it because I'm like Oprah Jr. over here, you know what I'm saying? But with no further ado, let's welcome Maya Elious to the podcast. How are you, Maya?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You already know the vibes. Carter, how you feeling, brother? Even though I just,
Yeah, I mean, after you just played me, I don't know how
Right,
I feel.
now I'm kind of interested how long y'all have known each other, because I like a little competition. I'm like, George loves me more.
Yeah, we've known each other since 2019.
Yeah, 2019. I mean, it's probably true if it was longer, because we fight all the time. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's hilarious.
Because it's like hyper accelerated because now we're running each other like 24/7.
Yeah.
The first like, oh damn, we like brothers moment when I made the wrong turn for like the second time or something. He was like, yo, he snapped. I'm like, oh yo, like okay, he's really comfortable now. I'm like, snap.
I lost it.
I love you. Realize that he's like, we got
That is hilarious.
I'm sorry, bro. I never apologize.
I was like,
he was stuck. Was he like?
I was like, you're a terrible co-pilot.
Yeah.
First and foremost, your one job is to look at the GPS.
Yeah.
Why is it all on my shoulders? Anyway, but yeah, so at that moment I was like, okay, I guess we're like really like brothers now. But yes, so I've known Maya since we always go back between 2013 2014, but I think it's 2013 because I remember when the new website went live and it was 2014, so I knew it had to be like at least the end of 2013. So for those of y'all who don't know, my very first baby, the brand that I loved, makes sense to me. Maya did an overhaul for my brand, created my first digital product, technically.
Yes.
My ebooks was amazing, and she introduced me to the world of high ticket because I was like, wait, how much is the website? How much is the ebook?
That's hilarious. When you saw that proposal, I was like, wait a minute.
I still paid it, right? And and she did amazing work because Maya has evolved. We talked a little bit about it on the podcast, but her career has evolved. And she started off doing amazing graphic design and web design, Brandwich, oh my gosh, that was the name of my agency. I love the name. It was a great name.
Thank you.
And so we're gonna talk. We're gonna get to know the Maya that you might not know on the internet, right? I think she does show you do a great job of showing some of the behind the scenes stuff and just being you. And I'm gonna hopefully ask some questions so people get to see a different side of you as well.
Awesome.
All right, so let's get into it. So, tell us a little bit about, for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, just to kind of get us started. Like, what made you get into the space? Well, how'd you start? What are you doing now? Let's kind of get into it.
Take your time. I don't know you that well, so I want to hear the whole story. Don't rush through it because he knows you.
Okay.
Take your time with it, okay?
All right. Awesome. All right. So I started in the entrepreneurial space in 2008 by creating MySpace pages for people. I was going to a community college and somebody on campus asked me if I knew how to create MySpace pages, and they offered me $50 to create one. And I thought it was just so cool because I was already doing it for fun and for free.
For context, what was the date? When was this? Like what year?
2008,
this was 2008.
Okay, 2008.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it was my first year of college. And I was just creating it for fun. Like, I just thought it was cool. I thought MySpace was cool because it was like you could create a persona. Like this was one of the first platforms where you could build your brand or create a persona online. So I was working with a lot of like wannabe models, reality TV models, music artists and stuff like that, helping them build their brand. So that is how I started my journey. I never really had a full understanding of what entrepreneurship was. So I didn't seek entrepreneurship. It was just, I liked playing around on the the internet. I was creative, and somebody happened to just offer me money to do it.
Yep.
And, you know, I am first generation American. Both of my parents immigrated here from Liberia, West Africa. So in their mind and in my mind, it's like, okay, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get, you know, my degree and, you know, work for the government or be a computer programmer or whatever it is. But, you know, as I grew in entrepreneurship, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this school thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wasn't even good at school. So it was like I was on probation because of my grades, and I eventually just dropped out in 2013, which was my junior year. So it was like, first of all, you're already late with graduation. You're not even doing that well. And so I decided to drop out, work for myself full time, run Brand, which was my agency back then. And when I dropped out, I was only making between like $3,000 to $5,000 a month, which was still kind of a lot for me because in 2013 I was 23. I didn't really have a lot of bills, so being able to make my own money online seemed like so much money.
100%.
And just so you know, like perspective wise, that's how much I made graduating. So we graduated around the same year. So like my graduate degree first job as an accountant, I was making like $3,500 after taxes, if that, per month. So you was able to make that on your own, which is insane.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, it felt so much back then. And I even like telling that story because, you know, people see us now where we're like, oh, we had the $1 million launch, or we doing 7 figures, which I'm so grateful for that. But it's like, listen, we had the humble beginnings where $3,000 seemed like a lot. And I always tell this story about when I did one of my first webinars, and I did it with my sister, Maddie, who's an influencer here in Atlanta.
Shout out to Maddie.
Yeah, shout out to Maddie
and
James.
I still haven't had one of those what do you call charcuterie boards?
The charcuterie board.
Hey, what's up with that? I'm in Atlanta all the time. Can I get the invite?
Yeah, let her know. She'll put whatever you want on there. But she and I did a webinar, I think in like 2015 or 2016, and this was when I was getting into webinars and having like my first 5-figure launches.
She's an OG in the game.
I was about to say, I had no idea webinars was a thing in 2015.
Right.
Yeah, so I started doing, I think, my first webinars in 2014, 2015. So she and I did one, and we were teaching people like how to blog and, you know, find their message and build their brand online. And I think on the webinar we made maybe about like $6,500. And I was like, oh my gosh, we made $6,500. And keep in mind that I've never had a corporate gig. Like I've always just done freelancing and making money online. So I didn't have like a realistic understanding of like how much money was a lot, how much money was a little. So making over $6,000 on a webinar, I'm like, yo, I am it.
We outside.
Okay,
I mean, in an hour or two, you made $6,500.
Exactly. And I was like,
revenue.
Right. And I'm like, these people who have never seen me before, they only read my blog or they're on my email list, like they're paying me and my sister money. So we make, you know, about a little over $6,000, and I need to go to the bank and take out half of it to give to my sister since it was a collaboration. And, you know, I didn't think to like PayPal her or Stripe her, or, you know, transfer. I didn't move money like that. So I didn't know what to do with the money.
How you want this bread?
Right, exactly. So I'm going to go just get this in cash. And to me, I'm like, oh my God, this is so much money. Like they're going to ask me why I need this much money.
You shut the bank down. If you pull all this at one time, the bank might shut down.
Right, exactly.
Do I need to call ahead? Like,
right, exactly. So I'm like in line, like, wow, I'm so nervous. They're going to be questioning me why I need this much money. And like in hindsight, it's like, girl, this is... Stop. The bank teller makes more than you. Like, stop playing.
You come in, you can do the ATM out front and you'll be good. Actually, you don't need to talk to us for that.
Why'd you come in for this?
Right. I told my clients that story and they were crying, laughing. They're like, not Maya walking in the bank with a silver briefcase.
Oh, I remember that. We were talking about that at the retreat. Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah.
So, yes, those were my humble beginnings. But I got into the coaching space after working with a lot of people with their, you know, their websites. And a lot of people struggle to communicate what to say on their website. When I would say, a lot of web designers will relate to this, like getting copy from their clients is so challenging because people are like, well, I don't know what to say on the website.
Right.
And so I started helping clients, like teaching them, how do you communicate what you do? Here's how you write your bio, all of those things. So that's how I found my gifting in messaging. And I've just been growing, doing live events, coaching programs, webinars, online courses, and things like that ever since.
100%. What she's so good at what she does. Let me give. I said this story offline, but I was at an event. We just came off InvestFest, as you guys know, and I ran into one of her clients, who I didn't know was one of her clients, and she came up to our booth because she does something in coaching women. It was so specific. I'm like, look, I've never heard anybody be this specific like, unless they've been coached by Maya. But I just thought it because I was like, surely, right, that's got to be a coincidence, right? And then sure enough, within 30 seconds, she looped back around. She was like, wait, I just realized we took a whole picture at Impact Weekend, which is your event, which we'll talk about. And I believe that brand is either establishing trust in the marketplace and or what other people say about you when you're not in the room, right? And so for me to think that the same way like Kleenex is synonymous with tissue, messaging is synonymous with Maya. That's a bar. Clip that up, please. Somebody clip that up.
Yes.
But yeah, so I just want to give you your flowers because
thank you.
And at the world of coaching, right? And I don't think it's biased because I know you, like, truly, like, nobody can help people articulate their message like you. So I just want to give you your flowers on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So now let's talk a little bit about, I know you got some questions for a friend.
Hey,
so.
see, I'm loaded.
He's over there. He locked up. Now you mentioned as you started kind of getting to the end of your present day journey, doing live events and things of that nature. Tell us a little bit about, because we went through this COVID era, which is what was that, right? Where we were locked inside for years. For you to come out of that, I believe me and Madge, was it what Impact Weekend was that? I think it was 2021. It might have been where we came down. We did trying to find a restaurant or something. We did like brunch. Like you had just finished one of your Impact Weekends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like, and I remember you told me what your goal was, and I think you kind of knew some early numbers or whatever. And so for me, I was like, even then, that wasn't that long ago, but I wasn't yet in doing events. I was like, man, that was a success. That was a huge success. So like, tell us a little bit about what made you start doing live events, live launches, and just what does that entail? Because now that we do events, we just understand the scale and the gravity and the magnitude of what's required. And so you were kind of a pioneer in that regard. So I would love to hear your perspective on just like what it takes to do that and how you got into doing that.
Yeah, for sure. So even before what Impact Weekend was what it is today, now it's about 150 to 250 women in Atlanta. I started small, and I used to do a lot of one-on-one coaching. I used to do a lot of VIP days, and I was like, what would it look like if I could just do a handful of VIP days with, multiple people in a room in an Airbnb? And so back then, this was when I was leveraging free Facebook groups as part of my marketing and lead generation. And I remember asking the ladies in there, I think maybe about 1,000 to 2,000 people in there, like, who would be interested in staying in an Airbnb and learning from me for 2 days about their messaging and their marketing. And so that was like my first seed of Impact Weekend. And then I eventually, launched it. I had 12 women come at $2,000, and I felt really good. I'm like, okay, just had a $24,000 launch, and I kept doing it. I did it maybe 4 or 5 times before I was like, I want to go bigger with this. Like, I keep selling out 12 to 15 women. People are still wanting to work with me. What would it look like if I went bigger? And I was a little nervous to go bigger because I've always created a lot of intimacy between me and my community. And I always felt like anytime I would see a Stripe notification or a PayPal notification, I would know who it was, right? Like, oh, they've responded to my email before, or we've DM'd, or I've seen their name inside of my community. So I had this fear of growing and scaling because I'm like, will I lose that intimacy and that personal touch? But I was like, you know what? I really need to expand my impact. I can't just stay small forever. Right. So when I decided to do Impact Weekend on a bigger scale, what allowed me to keep that intimacy was I had what we called impact coaches. Since my company is called Built to Impact, we had other coaches who would take my frameworks and teach the women throughout the event. Yep. And it was really cool to see that people weren't 100% reliant on interacting with me one-on-one, but so long they had access to my frameworks and my team and an extension of my vision, that it was still okay. So it was really, really cool to see that. And I think that was also a time where I started to shift from really solopreneur to CEO and personal brand to actual entrepreneur. So doing the larger events has been amazing. Obviously from a monetary standpoint, which if we should go into the strategy of live events because everybody thinks let me do a live event. It's no, this is, chill, bro. You better have money up front for this, right? You better have a strategy to make, there's very few people who actually profit from events. Period. And we happen to profit from ticket sales because of what we price it at. But even if we just broke even on ticket sales, I would be happy because the goal can't be to profit from ticket sales. Right? The goal got to be to profit from the either the back end offer, sponsorships, whatever it is. But it's been a really cool journey so far. It's been profitable. It's been stressful at times, but
learning in real life. So I'll let you get one.
Yeah, because I know we're gonna spend a lot of time on the events part because we need to know about that as well and how to make money from that. But I just want to talk about the importance of messaging because starting out entrepreneurs, right? They need you so bad. They need you so bad. People know what they do, but they don't know how to tell people what they do.
Yes.
People, if they don't know you, I would say if you can't articulate what you can do, I can't pay you.
Right.
Right. And the moment you go over 30 seconds, I'm out, mentally checked
out.
So just some high level tips for starting out entrepreneurs to understand how to find their messaging because they need to know how to find it and then how to successfully communicate it if you can.
Yeah, for sure. I think where people go wrong with messaging is that they make an assumption that people know what they're talking about. And so, I work with a lot of really skilled people, a lot of experts who have been in their industry 5, 10, 20 years. And the issue is they speak like this expert jargon.
Right.
And it's like, girl, we don't know what this means. And I used to make fun of George all the time because I'd be asking George about money, which I'm newly learning about, like how to make my money work for me within the last few years. And George would be talking about like, well, here's how you mitigate risk. And then I'm like, I don't even know what the word mitigate means. Okay. So it's already a risk because I don't even know the right terms.
It's already a risk.
It's already a risk. So it's like, you want to be able to speak in layman terms, like just pretend you're having a conversation with somebody that you want to help. Essentially, messaging is what you do in a very general sense. It doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be clear and simple, who you truly desire to serve. And this can be a challenge for a lot of new entrepreneurs because they want to help everybody.
If you have a pulse, I'm your man.
If you have a pulse, I'm your man. And I struggled with this too. When I first started, I was like, I work with corporate white males, 40 to 60. And it's like, girl, you don't know any white men. Please name all the white men you know in corporate. Stop lying.
You haven't had a corporate job.
You haven't had a corporate job. I interned like once at a corporate gig and I'm like, this is my audience. And it's like, girl, no, it's not. So you wanna be really clear on, what you do, who you serve, and how you serve them. That's essentially what your messaging is in the simplest form. And you'll find that, who you serve, they're usually a reflection of, what you look like or something that you've been through or related to your brand story somehow. It might not be a story that you went through, but maybe it was something that you saw growing up or you saw, in your industry that you wanted to fix.
Yeah. No, makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So do you recommend the Build Your Story brand book by Don Miller?
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Okay.
He's genius at what he does, and he gives really great examples and templates. And I'm a template queen. Like my clients will always laugh at how many templates are in my programs. They say, I'm going to Template Town so I can work on my sales page. So that's a great book.
Yeah. So you mentioned discussing event strategy. Let's talk about it a little bit because people don't know. Like they see the events and they see the recap video that our guy Eric, who's recording our podcast today, is doing, and it's fire and it's a vibe, and Maya's twerking on stage, and there's all sorts of beautiful activations. It's like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
But do you have the budget? I like to say, do you have the economic stamina, right? To be able to handle this because it's not cheap, right? Yeah, like we just had an event. It was a 6-figure event, right? That it was a brand.
If we ain't get the money on the front end, like our events are fulfillment events, meaning we already got paid to do it, and I still almost didn't want to do it.
No, for real. No, for real. Because I'm like, well, the money done ran out actually by the time we get to the fulfillment.
6 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. I've actually already spent this.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the strategy because it's new for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people don't have no context to it. They just think that events would be so dope and I get to be on stage. So talk about the purpose and then the strategy behind making it make sense for your business.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to speak to something that Carter said. He was like, we do fulfillment events. And I think people also don't understand the difference of these different types of events, right? So there's fulfillment events, meaning your clients have already paid you or whoever has already paid you. And now it's time for you to fulfill this promise, right? I'm fulfilling, I have a client retreat coming up and it's a fulfillment event. My clients have paid me to work with me for 12 weeks and now they come in. So I'm not making additional money for this event.
Right.
It's part of the fulfillment of the service that they have paid for. And then what we do really well, of course, we do fulfillment events, but then there's enrollment events where the purpose is to get people in the room. You know, people do this with webinars and stuff. People do this with live virtual challenges, which you guys kill as well. And then the in-person enrollment events where the purpose is to enroll people into a next level offer, into your program, into your service. And so we have one main enrollment event per year, and this is the majority of our revenue. This is our biggest launch per year, and so we rely on this to go really well. So we have to have the money up front because we're like, we got to get people in the room, we got to make it Instagrammable, we got to create FOMO, because we also know immediately after the event we open up ticket sales for pre-sales to the next year. So there's just so much strategy that goes into it. This is something that we work on for at least 6 months out of the year.
Yeah. So one thing I'm very interested in, because I'm very big on the brand side of what we do, right? Like, it's no secret. Like, that's my bread and butter and jam. So like, what I've always liked about you is I feel like you prioritize the integrity of your brand, right? Like there's other ways you can make more money, but it's like, I'm gonna do it this way because this is gonna make it more sustainable, and I'm gonna be around for a long time. So when you have this once a year major flagship event, talk us about like how do you like keep yourself from like doing additional things when you know you could and you know you can make more money at the sake of like maintaining the integrity of your brand?
Yeah. I think for me, it's because I've never really been driven by money. I love money, and I love to make a lot of it, and I love my clients to make a lot of it, but it's not my primary goal. And I say that, I don't say that in like the fake humble, like, I don't do this for the money. Like, no, if you run a business, you better be after the money.
Right. Like we got a saying, if you hanging out with your friends, you're not getting no money, it's a nonprofit.
Right.
You need to change from an LLC to a 501c3.
Absolutely, real quick. And you're not going to be able to make any impact without any money, period. So definitely I want to make money, but I'm not easily distracted by other money making opportunities, since the sole purpose is not to make money. Anything I do needs to make money, but it also has to be in alignment with purpose and impact. So if I'm looking at something that can make money, but it's not, you know, bringing me additional joy, it's not making me more impact, then it's easy for me to be like, let me put that, you know, on the back burner and, you know, put my focus into this one thing. And I've also seen that you can make $1 million doing less. So it's easier not to get distracted when you know, like, having clear focus makes you good money. It makes a deeper impact with your community. Yeah,
and also for you, it's making, you know, making more and doing less, but also the lifestyle side of it, right? Like, one of the pillars or anchors of your brand is what is it? What is it now? How many hours you work that you're
oh yeah, like the 3 hours a day.
Yeah, the 3 hour work day or whatever.
Yep.
And so talk to us a little bit about that, because again, I think we become entrepreneurs and then we get like stuck in this hustle culture, like just pursuing the next thing. You've also done that very well, of like, okay, yeah, let me make sure that there's true harmony, I'll say. Harmony within my lifestyle and my business, so that I can enjoy myself. I can kick my feet up. I can relax. I can actually feel confident on the internet saying I didn't do anything today and not feel bad about it, right? Talk to us about like even how you got to that place of comfort, right? To be in that space. And then more importantly, how did you structure your business to be able to make that happen?
Yeah. I mean, I always jokingly say, like, I'm lazy. I don't want to do a lot of work. I think the beauty is, if I have to work a 10-hour day, a 12-hour day, I can. I have the work ethic, but I don't find value in telling people I worked really hard. And I think some people, they find their value in that. They find value and be like, yeah, I hustled, I did this, I did that. And I'm like, I didn't do anything and we still made money. And when I say anything, the work was done, it just wasn't done by me.
Facts.
And so I don't have a lot of ego around being the person doing the work. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. Like, nobody can do this better than me. I'm like, well, she could do it 80%, so I'm gonna let her have it. And so I, like, even before I was making six figures, I remember my first, you know, hire was a VA. And back then, this was when, like, you could get VAs for, you know, $600 a month, right? And she was stateside. And I remember hiring her not because I couldn't do the work, not because I was so busy. I just wanted to spend more time laying in bed watching Netflix. And I was like, why would I be sitting in my basement on my laptop in the dark building a landing page when somebody else could do this? And so it was like, okay, if on average hourly back then, I think people were paying me $75 to $100 an hour for coaching calls. And I'm like, well, I could just pay a VA $10 an hour to do this landing page. Like, what is the point of me doing $10 per hour tasks when people are already seeing $100 an hour of value in me?
Right. Ooh.
Yeah. No. And I think that one, I love what you said about this, hustle culture. Cause we did an episode about a few weeks ago about entrepreneur trauma, and it's just about like, I'm traumatized at least. When you're building a business, you're putting in the work, and I like built this value in working 10-hour days. Yeah, and sometimes it's not necessary anymore.
Right.
Like if you hire the right people, you don't need to do that anymore. Yeah. So I love that you speak about that because and it's something to look forward to. You will get a place in your business where you make enough money. You deploy. You use the money. You use the money to buy back your time.
Right.
So that you can enjoy life.
Yes.
Because that's the ultimate goal. It's not about the money you make. Your wealth is defined by how much time you have to enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah. And even like when I think about profit, like I almost asked you to bring me that hoodie or a shirt. Like I've been thinking about profit so much more. I'm like, I don't just want to profit in money. I want to profit in time. Like how am I spending my time? How much time do I have to even invest in my happiness and fulfillment? So, but I do think it's important, like, understanding I'm sure we all started with the 8-hour days, the 10-hour days, the 12-hour days. Yep. Like I worked a lot, but it was really fun for me back then. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I didn't mind working that much, and I don't mind working that much now when necessary, but I don't try to push myself to work harder than what's necessary.
Yeah, the way I like to always articulate it is you have to understand the distinction between your identity and your role, right? Like when you do something for so long, you mistake it for your identity, right? Like when I hired my first like certified financial planner in the firm, I was so used to being the guy that like it was a part of my identity. Like, oh wait, I'm not the advisor anymore. What am I supposed to do? Yeah, I'm supposed to be the one that knows it all. It had become a part of my identity, so I had to unravel that, right, and realize it was just one of the roles that I have. The same way I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son. I was a financial advisor, right? I can still have impact, pun intended. It just might look different. It might be as a thought leader, right? It might be as a podcaster, but not as an advisor. So people have to kind of unravel the identity of being an entrepreneur, right, versus the role that it has in their life.
I love that. Makes sense. Yeah. And I think there's been a huge shift, like even for me, like going from coach to CEO of a coaching company, right? I don't have to be the coach, right? You've gone from advisor to being the CEO of an investment firm where people can work with your advisors. So that is definitely a shift, and you will see a shift in the things that you do, how you think, how you spend your time, and the amount of time that's invested.
Hey, aren't you tired of buying courses in those emotional states when you want to get a result, but then you actually don't do anything with the course? Do you know on average, the completion rate for a course is about 2%? But here's the thing, it's not entirely your fault. The problem is you buy the course, but you don't have access to the source who actually created it.
See, that's why we're doing something different. With the Millionaire Club, you're not just gonna get access to courses, you'll get access to the people who created it so you can get your questions answered. Because it's not just about learning, it's about taking that information so you can start earning. So the Millionaire Club is gonna give you access to courses, but not just that, it's an entire university of information. We have financial flicks, we have hundreds of previous recordings, but more than that, y'all, we have an amazing community of people just like you who are trying to become a first generation millionaire. So like GA said, like you can survive without community, but you can't thrive without community. So this is the place you need to be, right?
100%, because here's the thing. If it was just about information, we'd all be billionaires with six packs. So that's why every single Monday, we're going to set the tone for your week with Melanin Millionaire Mondays, where our entire community is going to meet up. The energy is going to be high. We're going to set the intention for what we're going to execute on so we can move the needle forward, and Carter and I and the rest of our team can keep you accountable.
So that's enough information. You see the rest in the club. All you got to do, click the link below, sign up, and start your journey to your first millionaire year. Let's get it.
Let's go.
You coach female entrepreneurs how to find their messaging, right? And I'm assuming it's other coaches as well that want to be a better coach and things like that. Yep. So my question is, we're in this culture where like coaching businesses are the number one fastest growing businesses that's out right now. And hopefully you're profiting from that a lot. You know what I'm saying? What is your opinion on the industry right now? Do you think it's something that is growing so fast it might get oversaturated? Or, because I personally think that the best thing you can do is monetize your genius, period, right? And you teach people how to do that. Do you think that this is something that's going to be long standing and that people should still tap into? Because some people feel like that, it might be too late. There's already so many other coaches in my field that's helping women do X, Y, Z. So what's your opinion on that?
Right. I mean, I definitely do think the industry is getting saturated, but that is just proof that it's working.
Bingo.
Right. So it's saturated, but you have to do the work to be able to stand out. Like, don't not do something just because it might be a little bit more challenging to get into. But I mean, I love the coaching industry, and as a coach, like, you know, we see the pros and cons of the coaching industry where we're like, oh, there's another coach. And, you know, and I'm very mindful of the people who I help that say they want to be coaches. Like, a requirement for us is like, how long have you been in this industry? Who have you gotten results for? Tell me a little bit about your receipts. So I think the coaching industry is great, but you do want to enter it with actual expertise and a level of integrity. Like, you know, somebody DM'd me the other day and they're like, hey, I want to be a coach. You know, I want to teach people how to do this, blah, blah, blah business. And I was like, okay, well, tell me how much money you made in that business. And they made like $5,000. And I was like, I don't understand what you would be teaching people. And I wasn't even trying to come from a condescending point of view, but I'm like, realistically, like, you know, sometimes I'll go in with the approach of like, I'll say, you know, you don't really need to be an expert. You just need to be a few steps ahead. But $5,000 in a year is not even the first step.
That's what we would call the reach of the week. We have a new segment on our podcast called the reach of the week.
It's the reach of the week. So we just want to make sure we have like actual tangible results that somebody else would want, right? Like, how much can you really charge somebody to like teach them how to make $5,000 a year? So we just want to be really clear, honest, and just operate with integrity in the coaching industry. But if you know you are an expert, if you know you want to help people, especially if you want to do high ticket, tap into the coaching industry. It's wide open. So
big facts.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about is the pressure of being a pioneer. You have been doing this for a long time. Even though you're young, because you started so soon, it feels like, oh my gosh, I've been here forever. I'm the OG, which is all true. And so I know at times, like, you can almost feel like, well, am I tapped out? Have I done the extent of what I'm supposed to do in this space because of how long I've been doing it, right? So, like, talk to us about some of the pressures of being a pioneer and just being, you know, one of the early adopters. Like, because there's some pros that come with that, obviously, in the beginning. But how does that feel now, like, as you're, you know, maturing in your career, and how are you processing that?
Yeah, I think it is really interesting to be in a space for so long and still be young, because I'm like, I feel like I should have more energy to like keep going and want to hustle. And I'm like, every once in a while, I feel like Blockbuster and I'm watching the Netflix's win. You know what I mean? And it's not because I'm phenomenal at what I do and I'm really proud of what I built, but it's like, I don't want to learn AI. I don't want to figure out TikTok. I don't want to learn new stuff. Like, I feel like an old person. Like, girl, you're only 33 and you're acting like you're 67. Like, please get it together. I think it's just, but I feel the frustrations that even new entrepreneurs feel of like, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. You still have to innovate. You still have to go along with the trends. And so sometimes I think it can feel frustrating because you'll be like, man, this worked for so long and I wanted to keep working. And it's like, well, you can't rely on Periscope to be your brand building thing when Periscope doesn't even exist anymore, you know? So I'm really mindful to kind of just stretch my mindset and stretch that muscle of being willing to try new things, because I don't want to have the arrogance of the pioneer who's too good to do the new things. And then you are sitting around looking like Blockbuster.
Big facts. Big facts.
That's amazing. And I just want to harp on a point you made before, because one thing that we just, you know, pride ourselves on is that, you know, I was a CPA for 10 years, before, you know, 8 years before I started teaching. George was a financial advisor for a long time. And just, we always stress the importance of getting the results for yourself first before giving it to somebody else. So I came up with this 3E formula that I would love your opinion on. I say experience, expert, educate. So get experience doing whatever you want to do first. Right. And then after you get your experience, you get your results, then you start branding yourself as an expert, meaning putting out content to show people how good as you are, what you do. And only then can you start getting paid to educate people on what you've been doing.
Yes, I love that. I've ironically said those 3 E's before, and it's a little bit different than how you said it, but it's like you want to make sure that you actually have experience. And I think that's the biggest difference in like the coaches and the experts who are legit versus the ones who aren't. You know, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they were like, I've watched your content and I can tell that you know what you're talking about, and it's not just regurgitated content. And it's because there's a difference when you speak from experience, just speaking from, oh, I read this, you know, inside of a book. So I really love that. Like once you have the experience, how you educate people shows up so much differently. Like when I go to George, like I can go to George and ask him about like, hey, I have this lump sum of money. What do you think I should do? He's going to give me feedback, not only just from his experience and how he spends his money, but what you guys are doing with your clients. Like, hey, we advised a client to do this. Here's what their results were. So that experience is definitely a game changer.
Amazing.
Big facts. Kind of as a part 1B of the pressure of being a pioneer and how you process that. When you think about ambition, I feel like I heard you say something one time. You were like, I don't know, like almost like finding contentment in where you are, right? But trying to balance that with also not being complacent, right?
Yeah.
So like, how do you reconcile like, okay, I know that I can do more. I see the innovation happening in this space. I see the things that I can do, but I'm tired or whatever it is. Like, how do you reconcile like finding that contentment or even maybe pausing temporarily with realizing that there's more impact that I can do in this space?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think my prayer lately has been like, God, if you want me to do more, you're going to have to give me the desire, because I am happy and fine with the type of impact that I've had. I find that I have a little bit more ambition when I'm around my clients. You know, we just got back from DR. Thank you so much for pouring into them.
Absolutely.
And so when I can see like the physical manifestation of the impact that I've created, that gets me excited. But then sometimes when I'm at home, because I think maybe because I only work 3 hours a day, my brain is not primarily on like, what can I do next? What am I doing? What am I doing? I love the freedom that I have. So I don't think about ideas that will create more work for me.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So I'm always like, what my mind really for the past year is like, how can my money create more freedom for me? That's what I'm like, George, should I invest in this? Should I do more real estate? You know, all of that. So it can definitely be, you know, I think it's an awkward situation because a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs and they are striving for more, and I applaud them, right? I used to be in a space where I'm like, we're going to be a $10 million company. We're going to be a $100 million company. Here's what I want. And now I'm like, I don't want to do the work required to make $10 million. And I'm glad that I'm very honest about that, because it's a dangerous situation to build a $10 million company and not want to do the work and then not do it. And then it's like, now you're operating out of integrity. Now you're ruining, you know, your reputation. So,
or having to unravel something because you didn't have the foresight to have the self-awareness about what makes the most sense. But I really respect that though, because
especially in this day and age of entrepreneurship, where it's like, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do that and make sure you get the LLC. Now you own NBC. Like, yeah, like it's okay to just like, again, it's beauty in contentment as long as you're okay with what you're getting attention to. Don't let other people's vision of what they want make you feel guilty about what you want for yourself, because again, becoming the person you have to be at a $10 million, $100 million company, that person has to deal with a whole bunch of problems that come with that.
We just talked about that.
That come with that people aren't aware of. But for the ones that do want to make a lot of money, let me ask you this: how do you coach your students on becoming the person that can pitch or offer a high ticket offer, right? Because we know that high ticket offers have great profitability, but you know, I struggle, like, you know, with my friends, getting them to become the person that think they have the right to charge somebody $5,000 or $10,000. Like, how do you coach your clients through that?
Yeah, I love that question. One of the first things is I have my clients just write down all of their receipts. Oftentimes we don't believe we are the person that deserves this type of money because we literally do not see ourselves as that person. We're not fully aware of the value that we bring to our industry. But when I talk to my clients, I'm like, girl, you are it. Like, you are brilliant. I'm like, write this down. Like, you know, I even have those moments. It's not hard for me to charge high ticket. That's the reality now. But sometimes I have those moments of like, you know, because it comes, the issue is with me, with people who are newly charging high ticket, with us, it's our brilliance has become so normal to us that we're treating it as common.
Talk about
Say that one more time.
Our
Jesus.
brilliance has become so normal to us that we are treating it as common. And so that's why sometimes we can get stuck charging these common prices, dealing with common clients, and living a common life. And so every once in a while I have to remind myself, like, girl, you've done a $400,000 a month. You've done $1 million launch. You've worked with over 100 clients at one time. You've built a multi-million-dollar company. I have to remind myself of this so I don't play myself like I'm common. So for the experts out
good,
there
y'all.
who want to charge high tickets, start writing down your receipts and recognize I'm not basic. The average person could not do this. I'm not average. I should not be running an average business, and I should not be charging average prices. If you're wondering like what your price should be and you're looking at what everybody else is charging, that's the worst place to start because everybody else is doing average things.
Talk about it. Oh my God. If you want to become an above average, if you want to make an above average income, you must first become an above average person. And it takes an above average person to give people above average receipts. And you're so right, because when I asked people who are, charging more than me, or when I asked my mentors how they're able to charge so much, their first response is because that person made X, Y, and Z. Like, I was just talking to a good friend of mine. She charged $100,000 for a coaching program. And I was like, well, how can you charge somebody $100,000? She'd be, because they come out making $1 million. And I was like, well, and she was so dead ass about her. It was like, because they come out making $1 million. And I was like, well, yeah.
I love that.
She's so confident. So yeah.
I think oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so then you can almost back into your value proposition too, right? It's like, okay, if you know the results and receipts that your program can offer, that can help you quantify, right? So for us, like with our pricing right now, it's a no-brainer pricing, because it's like, I know that from the implementation, the service component, and then the actual results, if you do the work that you'll get from the program, this is a no-brainer price. Sometimes people are shooting from the hip and don't know what to charge because they don't have the receipts, right? And they don't have quantifiable proof of what makes sense, right? He know that he can save you $50,000 in taxes, like with his eyes closed.
Right.
I know that I can help you invest $50,000, right? Like those are, like, we just know. So at minimum, we technically could charge, right, $100,000, because at the end of the day, we know you're paying for this information one time. You can use it forever.
Exactly. It's knowing the ROI of what you provide, right? Like if my clients are coming to me saying, I want to make $100,000. Okay, great. It's a $10,000 investment. To me, that's a no-brainer. I give you $10,000 and you're giving me the skills to make $100,000. It's a no-brainer, and I can do that over and over and over. So it really is understanding what are the results that you bring to your client. And
even more important than that, which you do extremely well, is maintaining the integrity of who you say yes to, so that you can actually get them those results.
Because that coach that was making $5,000, they only made $5,000 in a year. You could coach them. You could have them pay you half what they made. You could have them pay you 2 times more than they made all year to teach them how to make 100. But again, they can't do it because you can't work miracles. You know what I'm saying? The person can't do anything. I'm serious.
Yeah, because when you have integrity, like it makes your job easier. It's like, you make over 6 figures. You're trying to go from here to here. Like it's child's play to get them the results, right? But you have to have the discipline and the integrity to say no to the money on the front end of who you let in. And that's you've historically, from my vantage point at least, have done that really, really well.
Thank you. That's so real. Yeah, because when we do sales calls, it's literally to see, do we believe we can help you get to the end result or not? That's really what it is.
Yep. And that's why we created this ascension model with our thing. It's like ascension leads to retention, right? It's like, okay, we solved the next problem, we created a new one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because like your next thing, again, I know you're not trying to create any more work for yourself. So I say this just throwing it out there, not telling you to do it. But if you wanted to take people from 100,000 to $1 million, you could charge 30,000 because you now know the value proposition and you've done it yourself, but you're not creating any more work.
Because you already have a $25,000 offer, right?
I do, and it is for the people that want to make 7 figures.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm okay with doing more work if it just has to feel fun for me.
Yeah.
It just has to feel fun. Getting the money itself is not fun. Like how I get to the money, it has to feel fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I've watched you from up close and from afar. My inspiration for events came from you, right?
Thank you.
He's an event guy now. He wants to do all the biggest and baddest events.
Yeah. I love it.
Where's he getting this from? Then he goes to DR. I'm like, I got it. Okay.
And it's so great to have people, like, representation at all levels is important, right? So I know, like, we've been able to mutually inspire each other in different ways, but like I've seen you for a long time do the same thing, and you don't you don't reinvent, you refine. And so I think it's just important to understand that, like, at the end of the day, we're not really doing anything new. It's like, how can I get better and better at the thing that I've always done or have done for an extended period of time.
I love that. I love it. Yeah. I feel like Carter's wheels are turning. He's like, okay, but Maya, you really could.
I'm like, yo, like, you know what I'm saying? But again, like, and I think it's knowing because, you know, who we are as entrepreneurs, right? I am a person that loves to just run and gun, right? And I don't have an off switch. He knows that, you know what I'm saying? To the point where we gotta go back and forth about it. But again, I'm just so used to being on. So instead of like taking the 10 hours a day and saying I could only want to work 5 now because I really only have the 5 hours work to do, I go find the extra 5 hours of work to do, which is probably not healthy. I should probably check that out. But it's just knowing who you are as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, everybody's wired differently. Yeah. I admire those people. Like, that gives me that mama mentality type energy. You know what I mean? Like the high performers. I like watching people like that. It's not where I am, but it's still really impressive because it's like people like you are like, I don't want to waste anything while I'm breathing, right? And so they're like, what can I create more of? And I think that's really honorable.
Yeah, 100%. If you have an answer, where do you see Maya Elious in the next 5 years from now?
Carter, where do you see me in 5 years from now, just based off of what you've seen so far?
Answer this for me.
I can see you systematizing, automating this business and getting your CEO bag and operating it from different places of the country because you don't have to be here. You don't have to be in America that much.
I love it. Definitely don't want to be in America that much. I think it is a challenging question because, you know, within the last, I'd say 18 months, I have had this vision of, I don't know how much longer I want to do this. I still want my company to run. I just don't want to run it. I've said this multiple times, like, I want to own companies. I don't want to run companies. And so, you know, I would love Built to Impact to continue growing, to continue impacting women. But I want to build an amazing team that can serve them really well. So I've always been like on the fence, like, do I want to write a book? Do I want to start a podcast? I'm like, why would I do those things if I'm not trying to be seen more?
Right.
So in 5 years, I mean, if I could just keep making money off of the assets that I own, including my business, and not be so visible, not be so hands-on, that would be great. I think my primary focus is like, get somebody's son, get them to get me pregnant, and we're living, you know, we're just traveling the world.
No, I love that. If I could add to piggyback to what he said, I could see if you decided to go the route of building a business that you could exit and hire a CEO, right? The business still exists. You have another flagship program that's for people who are above 7 figures that want to build their business to exit. So it goes from Built to Impact to Built to Exit.
Ooh.
And then you have the documented proof of doing it, hiring the CEO. The business still lives on, and it's the best of both worlds. You get a liquidity event.
Hold on, don't drop this episode before I look up the domain.
Fair enough.
No, you got time. You got time.
Right, you get
by the time y'all watching this, domain's secure.
Right, exactly.
Don't try it. Trademark. True business owners, right? True business owners,
and have that program right, because then you have a liquidity event. You truly won't need the money, right? Because you hired a CEO, somebody came in, you know, to take over the business. You truly own it as an asset,
and you have your own funnel of clients.
Exactly.
When everybody that comes to Built to Impact, they're like, "Oh, yo, well, now what?" It's like, well, Mike got this program called Built to Exit. If you're tired of this, like, you know what I'm saying?
I love it. That's very sexy.
So the house
sounds like we have a program. We got to collaborate.
There we go.
So
right,
good.
Turn their business into an asset that you own instead of a business that you run.
Self-fulfilling prophecy. That's crazy. One of the questions we love to ask on this show after that amazing business idea is you're a person of melanin skin. You're also a millionaire. So we want to ask you the question of, what does being a melanin millionaire mean to you?
Being a melanin millionaire means freedom, wealth building. I think it was just really interesting when I realized that I was a millionaire, and I was like, oh, I'm the first millionaire in my family. This is so interesting. And I think it was just like, I want to create just better experiences for the people, you know, closest to me. So I think it's like freedom, better experiences, like taking my parents on trips and, you know, spending more time with them. Just the freedom and fulfillment is what it means to me.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Maya Elious, the Melanin Millionaire. who is building a new program. But thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, I know these are conversations that we can have offline, but I think the world needs to benefit from your genius. And thank you so much for generously sharing your value with the world.
Thank you guys for having me. This has been such a pleasure.
Awesome. Until next time, guys.
Peace.
Peace.